Hey everyone, welcome to Richard's Retro. This is the Bible in 2022. We don't have any new announcements this week. Just remember that we are meeting on Google Meet rather than Skype. So be sure to check that link in the description if you haven't made it there yet. We'll also be available at my house if you'd like to come over. We'll have some sort of baked good and get to chat in person. Otherwise, I hope to see you all on the Google Meet link around 7:30 tonight. All right, getting back into it. We made it through a lot of Leviticus this week. We saw instructions for the priests and how they were to act. We saw them actually begin their ministry, and it doesn't say how long, but within very little time, we see Nadab and Abihu do it wrong and get burned to death. And it said, actually just before that, it said when they've set up everything, we see that fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the fat portions on the altar. So they prepared all of these offerings, slaughtered all these animals, put them all up there, but didn't burn them. And then God lit the fire. God consumed everything. And everybody saw it. And that was really cool. But then immediately after that, we see Nadab and Abihu bring, what does it say? My current translation says an unauthorized fire. Some of them say a strange fire. And, they died. Aaron had to remain silent in this. I thought that was unfortunate. I can't imagine. Aaron obviously was not perfect. Had made quite a few mistakes very recently, even. But seeing, he'd just been made high priest. His sons had been made priests. His whole line was to be priests, and then he lost two of his sons, almost instantly starting the job, and then wasn't even allowed to mourn them. I can't imagine how that felt. We see them continue to actually make mistakes, and Moses get mad at them by sacrificing wrong. Excuse me. And then Aaron apologizes. I'm still confused about what he was saying around accidentally maybe eating the sin offering instead of a different burnt offering. For the guilt offering, I think. But Aaron's answer made Moses happy. He said, Moses heard this and was satisfied. But I'm still confused as to why there was an issue. So hopefully we can talk about that. That's Leviticus 10:20. We see instructions for the people after the priests are set up around eating clean food. I thought it was strange that if an insect fell into one of their pots, that pot was unclean and had to be broken, right? The whole pot was ruined and couldn't be cleaned if an unclean insect made it in. It just seemed over the top, but I guess it was necessary. I loved this, just in the middle of all of these rules. He says in Leviticus 11:44, I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves and be holy because I am holy. And I thought this was cool because he's calling us to be like him. Right? It's not just be like what I want you to be. It's be like me. Check it out. You can imitate this. And I thought that's cool. I mean, I know, and I've known for a while, right, that we're supposed to, be like God or imitate the example Jesus sets for us as well. But it's a cool reminder, right, that we're not called to just be some strange being doing whatever God's bidding is. We're called to be like him. He made us in his image, and it's really cool. It's important to remember that. Lots of rules about defiling skin diseases, getting cleansed from those diseases. I thought it was interesting that as part of the ceremony for cleansing them, that you take you have two birds, you kill one, and you take the other one, you dip it in the water and the blood, and then release that bird. And I'm curious what the symbolism is there, right? I see the symbolism for the spotless lamb. I see the symbolism for the scapegoat. What's the symbolism for the bird? I didn't get it. So if someone has notes in their study Bible or has thought about that more, I'd be very curious to talk about that tonight. That's Leviticus 14:7. We see more instructions for an altar. We see rules for uncleanliness charged by bodily discharge. And we see in 15:25, it says, when a woman has a discharge of blood for many days at a time, other than her monthly period, or has a discharge that continues beyond her period, she will be unclean as long as she has the discharge, just as in the days of her period. And, I mean, it's just, a sentence, whatever. But all I could think about was the woman that had been suffering from bleeding for 12 years that Jesus healed. Because that means that not only was she bleeding for 12 years, which sucks, she was unclean for 12 years. She couldn't participate in any of the festivals, in any of the sacrifices, or any of the culture. She was not just sick, she was unclean and she was cut off and couldn't participate. And so by healing her, he did more than just heal her, he brought her back in. And that's all I could think about when I read that. Like, it was really cool. It sucks that those are the rules. But I love that Jesus didn't just say, like, hey, you're clean now. He healed her and made her clean. We see rules for the sin offering. Eating blood is forbidden. A friend of mine was telling me he was reading it this week while eating steak, and it felt really it hits a little different while you're eating steak to be reading Leviticus. Thought that was funny. We see standards for living a holy life. A lot of rules around sexual relations, and then in the middle of all these rules around appropriate sexual actions, we see, do not give any of your children to be sacrificed to Molech, for you must not profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. And I thought that was interesting that in the midst of all these rules around sexual relations, they have this. And I wonder if there was some sort of sexual aspect involved with sacrifices to Molech, or if God just wanted to throw it in there. It stands out and is clearly important. And I think that's cool because, that's clearly a problem if they're sacrificing their kids. But I'm just curious why it was put there. And then this one in Leviticus 19:14, do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block in front of the blind. Who was doing this? Who saw the blind and thought, you know what, I'm going to put something in front of them and watch them trip? Was this enough of a problem that it needed a law? In Leviticus 19:27, it says, do not cut the hair at the sides of your head or clip off the edges of your beard. So apparently I screwed that one up this week. But I am legitimately curious, and we can talk about it, why that would matter. Why not cutting your hair, and specifically just the side of your head. And then all of these, right? At the very end, well, not the very end, but end of a lot of this list, and throughout the list actually, he says it. But keep all my decrees and all my laws and follow them. I am the Lord. He repeats this over and over and over. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. I wonder if, as people are reading these laws, they keep forgetting who's giving them the rules. It was interesting to see that over and over and over and over again. It's just, I am the Lord. I am the Lord. Please listen. I am the Lord. We see more rules for priests, punishment for sin, unacceptable sacrifices. Oh, I thought this was interesting. Under the rules for the priests, it said, no descendant of Aaron, the priest who has any defect, is to come near to present the food offerings to the Lord. And I get it, right? I get the sacrifice being holy and blameless and defect free, but it was weird to me that, like, I mean, if you were born with a short arm or something, any defect, you were out. You just couldn't be a priest, and that seems strange that God would not want to include someone. I mean, He made that way. So yeah, I mean that seemed like a weird, like there was no fault of that person to now be excluded. Now, I mean, there's also no fault of someone being born into the tribe of Judah instead of Levi to be excluded. But I just thought that was interesting that God cares or cared here. Clearly now everyone can come before the throne of grace, but I liked the we read the list of seasons and festivals, and my favorite was the festival of trumpets, and I love it. It's just like on the first day of the 7th month, take a rest and blow some trumpets. That's it. That's the whole it's the whole thing. It's like its whole importance is just to express joy and thanksgiving to God. There isn't like a thing to remember that I know of. Maybe there isn't, and I missed it, but it sounded like it was just like, hey guys, trumpets, be joyful. All right, and that's it for Leviticus. Let's move over to Psalms. Psalm 31. This one was interesting. It was talking about, like, in times of stress, we should depend on God completely. And so David is just listing all these things that are wrong. But he says, since you are my rock and my fortress, for the sake of your name, lead and guide me. And then in Psalm 31:14, but I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hands. So, like, in all of this, it's not just like I trust that you're going to, like, make it all better. But I trust that you're going to work things out because my life is in your hands. Like, how I live, how long I live, what I do. I'm going to trust that you're doing it right because you're my God. Oh, that was really cool. Over in Psalm 110... this is the actually what we're about to read in Hebrew. The author of Hebrews quotes this a lot. Like, the Lord says to my Lord, right? We read that. David talking about Jesus. And then we see in 110:4, the Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. And so, just again pointing to Jesus as a high priest. And we'll talk more about him as a high priest when we get to Hebrews. And then in 111, I just loved 111:3. Glorious and majestic are his deeds, and his righteousness endures forever. I thought that was really cool. He provides food for those who fear him. He remembers his covenant forever. I thought that was cool. Right? We were having this discussion, I think it was last week even, like, do we eat in heaven? I don't know why we wouldn't. Like, God loves feeding us. He loves providing food. And he doesn't change, right? He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So I don't know why he would want to stop that provision, right? It may be a different type of food, right? It may not be pizza. But I still think we will be sustained on him. And so I hope that provision is as pleasing in heaven. I'm sure it is. And then at the very end, in verse 10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, which is just, something we see throughout Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. It's a good reminder that when you're searching for wisdom, you should start with fearing God. All right, and over to Hebrews. I thought this was cool. I think this is the point that the author of Hebrews is making. But in chapter 4, verse 4, it says, for somewhere he has spoken about the seventh day in these words. On the seventh day, God rested from all his works. And so, if it's all, like, is he done? Like, did he make all of time done? Like, is he done? Like, did he complete everything then? Is he still resting? Is he done? Like, is he still intervening? I mean, clearly his hand is still moving, but is it actually moving now, or was it moving then because he could see all of it, right? Like, when it says all of his works, does it mean he's still doing things? Or has everything been done? And it's, oh man, time is so weird. Okay, that's my mind trip for the week. And then he compares Christ to Old Testament priests, and I love this in 4:15. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weakness, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are. Yet he did not sin. I love that. He's just like us, but he didn't sin. So he is worthy to be our priest. And then he quotes Psalms, in the order of Melchizedek, and just goes into comparing Christ to a high priest like Melchizedek. And he says that in chapter 7, verse 14, it is clear that our Lord descended from Judah. And in regard to that, the tribe of Moses said nothing about priests, right? All the priests were supposed to come from Levi, and then specifically Aaron. And so it's cool that God's like, you know what? I'm going to bring this guy from Judah. But, he goes on to say, Melchizedek wasn't from Levi. And Abraham still, tied to him and called him a priest. So, clearly, he's kind of opening it up and saying, clearly, priests can come from places other than Levi. And it was just this law, this broken law that we've been talking about for a while that set up the Levites. And so we now have a better hope to draw near to God. I thought that was awesome. And then it talks about, obviously, the new covenant being better than the old. And it says, if he were here on earth, he would not be a priest, for there's already a priest we have here. They serve at a sanctuary that is a copy and a shadow of what is in heaven. Does that mean, that's in chapter 8, verse 5, does that mean that there's a sanctuary in heaven, right? Is there, it says there's a temple, right, in the New Jerusalem. So, what's it for? I think we asked this last year when we were reading Revelation. We don't need sacrifices anymore. Why do we have a temple? Why is there a temple in heaven that we are copying here? I wonder what it's used for, or was used for. Maybe it's not anymore. But because we have this new covenant, it says, I will put my laws in their minds and write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. I love that, right? We're no longer stuck with laws written on stone tablets. They're written on our hearts, and we get to be one with God's people. And he made the old covenant obsolete. That's it. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video this week. I tried to keep it, I'm making them shorter and shorter as I go. But I hope to see you guys tonight. If you made it this far, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and the bell icon if you want to get notified when the videos go out. Look forward to seeing you guys. Cheers.